I explained it in great detail on Angela's show, like that pro se doesn't exist anywhere in common verbiage and like the common parlance. It's a term of art used by the court, and it's saying that you're pretending to be some form of an attorney, that you're in an attorney capacity. So if you're any form of an attorney, you're a subordinate officer of that court. You're subordinate to the judge, and you have to abide 100% by the judge's rules. You can try to bring whatever rules you want before the judge, but the judge can grant or deny you the acceptance of the rules that you would wish that you want to bring into her court, because she's going to be the superior, because she is on a pyramid scale or totem pole. You're subordinate. Every attorney is subordinate to the judge, and they have to abide by the rules that the judge sets out. You could beg and play, and well, that's what you're doing. You're making a pleading. You're begging to the judge. So when you're filing pleadings, you're begging to somebody superior. So when you're in a common law, you're talking to the 12 judges in front of you. So like I said, in this country, for some oddball reason, we call the one person in the black robe a judge. In England, they're called magistrates. And in England, the 12 people that you have in a common law English trial are called the judges. And the guy in a black robe is a magistrate. For some reason, we call the guy in a black robe a judge. I don't think how he became my judge. He's not my judge. I'm moving in common law. I want the 12 judges in the jury box. That's the true jury. That's the true judge, is the jury. Because everybody knows Billy Thornton made that famous. Independent of the tribunal. The magistrate is independent of the jury, the 12 people, the 12 judges, and the defendant and the prosecutor. The guy in a black robe is independent. And a court of record only moves under the common law. So all you got to do is simple. I'll explain to you. It's real simple, man. Federal court is extremely simple. All federal courts are courts of record. All courts of record only move under the common law. And every court in every state is a common law court. And you have that right. And only man has a right to make a claim in a court of record. There you go. That's why the state prosecutors, lawyers, don't even bother understanding any of that nonsense, because they have no standing in those courts. But that's the only problem for them is 100% of the courts in this country, when this country was established, was a court of record. It's only been modified in the last 200 years to accept like equity and admiralty and all the other nonsense. Before then, it was all common law. It's whatever you had the Mayflower colony, you had the Williamstown colony, you had the Georgetown, you had all colonies. So it's whatever they believed. They brought their own version of the Bible over. They brought their own version of the rules over, and you went before a tribunal, and they judged you. And it didn't matter what the King of England said was the law. It didn't matter what anybody else said. The Pope said was the law. These people were Protestants, and this law still stands in this country. That's whatever is the custom of the people within that certain jurisdictional district. Within that district is the law, and the people will tell you if they'll accept that behavior in their community or not. Like I said, when I went driving backwards, I went through stop signs in reverse, I did not break the law, but the jury would say I broke the law, because they said we're not going to accept that kind of behavior in our community. You're not just going to be driving backwards through stop signs. You're not just going to be driving down just because you got away with it in the black and white law. It's not written in the law book. Don't think the jury's going to throw the book at me. The jury's going to say, yeah, absolutely, you did wrong. It's like, well, the law doesn't say that. You know what? The jury gets to make up the laws as they go along. That's why you got to be really careful when you demand a jury trial, because the jury will say, well, we just don't accept that crazy behavior in our neighborhood. So even though you didn't technically break some code because it wasn't expressly written, and code can't be implied, because this other man, Hailstone, was saying that before. They said you got to be extremely careful when you cite code. It has to be expressed. So if you're saying like a fictitious title, well, that's one word. It doesn't mean that's an adjective describing that title. It could actually physically say, he's like, why? You could actually see a piece of paper back in 1800 and said, wow, they actually call this fictitious title. It has nothing to do with fictitious as we know it. Oh, wow. Okay, I thought it did. It's their code. It's their own language. They can make it do whatever they wish it to do, whatever they please. They're not bound by our rules. They're not bound by the common law. They could say, you know what, we don't like that word in the common law. We're going to mess up normal people, and we're going to use the complete opposite. Because you people love to use the word suffer, and like I say to people all the time, the church says, oh, did you suffer by the acts of the state and the state agencies and that policeman? Yes, I did. Let's say case dismissed. Because in legalese, the word suffer means that you consented, and you could have fought back, but you chose not to. That's what suffer means. And if you want to see where that is in, that's in Black's Law Dictionary. It's either in their first version or the second version of Black's. I think it's first version. Perfect example of the word suffer. So if the judge said, are you claiming that you suffered because of the acts of that policeman and that an agency? Well, yes. Then he's saying, so you're telling me you consented to what they did, you had the ability to fight back, but you chose not to. You say, well, yes. I said, well, then you don't have a case. Case dismissed. Have a nice day. I was like, wait a second, I told you I suffered because these people did that. He said, yeah, I know, I heard you 10 times. You said you suffered. That means you consented to what they did, and you had the ability to fight back, but you chose not to. That's what the word suffer means in legalese. You and I know what it means. To suffer means, hey, he hurt me. He hurt me real bad. I'm suffering. I'm in great angst and agony. That's what we know it means. In legalese, it's the complete opposite. So you got to be very careful when you try to speak in a legalese language. So when I tell people, if you use the word pro se, you start speaking legalese, they can answer in legalese. If you just keep it in plain, simple English language, like some other man said, like a warranty deed, when you start speaking in a legalese verbiage, they can respond in legalese verbiage. Like one man said to me, he said, well, he wrote some Latin words in there. I said, how would you like it if they responded in their whole entire answer, they reply to you in Latin? How would you like it? You spoke Latin? You use 6 words in Latin. What happened if they felt like using 600 words in Latin? You say, hey, that's not fair. Why did you speak in a foreign language? Legalese is a foreign language to me. When somebody says to me, it's like I say to them, are you here in official capacity to speak to me? It's like, oh, so you're under some administrative code, legal? You're here for legal business? Yeah, well, I don't speak legalese. When you want to step out of that role and assume or presume full liability as a man and speak to me man to man, then we'll talk. But in legalese, I have no idea what the hell you're saying. I need a lawyer. I need something. But you know what? Send me a proposal. Send me a paper. I'm not going to converse with you. Not unless we're talking man to man. We speak in legalese. You're speaking Chinese to me, as far as I'm concerned. I don't speak that gibberish.